Their particular order. I'll try to explain kind of context and the reasons why I'm doing stuff as I go. But for the sake of time, let's just get going. So what I'm going to do is in my library, my May 2019 library, that just happens to be the month, I went ahead and just did a file new event and went ahead and labeled that the date of this weekend, which I think was the 26th. I have this event right down here, bottom left corner. And I need to start importing my content for this. I already have my SD card in. I already filmed Dan and Rebecca. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, open the Import Media tab, find the drive. Might have to reseat it here. Plug it back in. There it is, Untitled. Might take a second for it to load all of the content. There it is. I'll grab all these clips, and I just want to make sure that they're going to import, yep, right here. They're going to import into May 2019, into the correct event. I don't care about optimized media because I filmed in optimized media natively. I filmed in Apple ProRes. So go ahead, just come down here, click Import. And let's see here, storage unavailable. Oh no! So sometimes this will happen where your target drive will just be out of storage. So I'm just going to go ahead and just free that up a little bit. All right, let's give that another try. There we go. If you want to get an idea for how long the footage is taking to import, you come over here to the top left corner. This is a little time countdown background tasks window. If you open that up, you get to see what's going on. Notice, this is really important, notice that every time your mouse scrubs over a project, whether that's the project you're working on or another project, it's going to pause importing. This is really important to note. It does this so that it doesn't, your project won't lag as much, but it should be noted that if you were to just take your content and start dragging it in and editing it, it might not be finished importing. So there's been a lot of times where I have finished a project faster than it's taken the content to import, and when I yank that drive, oh no, content is, it can't find the content, it's unlinked, so there's that process of having to go in and relink stuff, and it's fairly easy, it's kind of tedious, kind of annoying, so just make sure that you import your content first. It also helps if your drive is clear and open. These files, especially if you are doing that create optimized media checkbox I was just avoiding. If you're filming on like a DSLR or something like that, something that records in compressed footage, you might want to convert it to optimized media, but just know uncompressed media content is going to be very large. The files that I'm importing right now, the clips of Dan, are varying from 500 meg, 1 gig, 1.2 gigs. They are high quality content, which means it'll actually be easier for the computer to be able to edit with, but it's a larger file to work with. I'm recording to SD card storage, and I'm importing onto a solid state hard drive on my iMac. Alright, so just finished up. You'll see this notification at the top. It says import complete. Hit eject if you want to eject. For whatever reason, this button has never worked for me, but you can hit it if it makes you feel better. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is just sort through the footage. I have a couple of different clips here, all pertaining to a different video announcement.
To our paint and dip night.
So this is for paint and dip. I'm going to come in here and just label it paint and dip. Let's check out the next clip.
Though by June 23rd. Good. The Eastridge Summer Softball Leagues.
Softball. How about this next one?
Looking to take your next step in connection at Eastridge. Join us for next.
That's the next class. And I believe the first one we shot was Issaquah.
Clear your your faith. Water baptism is a way.
Baptism class.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan. We are so glad that you joined us today.
That's an intro.
Fill out as much as you feel comfortable with. Inside your bulletin,
That is the outro. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to create a new project. File, new project. I'm going to do the Issaquah video announcements first. I'm just going to use the date as the title of it. So 5/26/19 Issaquah. All right. So I'll start with the intro, and I need to trim this. What I want to do is trim this in here before I bring it in here. That'll actually speed up this process considerably. Yeah, let's see, I don't need this guide. There we go. If you want to pull these guides up or hide them, you go up here to View. I was using the Horizon. This is the Show Title Action Safe Zones. This one I will use. This is really important. We have different projectors in our facility that crop at different levels. So if you're using safes and you line up your text inside the safe window, you're safe. You're good. You'll know that it won't look funny or it won't be cut off on the other end of the display. All right, so let's do some basic cropping within the viewer. The keyboard shortcuts I'm going to use is play for space bar for play and pause, the I button for in, and the O button for out.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan.
Oops, I missed it there.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan. We are so glad that you joined us today. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up, so grab your bulletin and follow along.
Perfect. I'll take that and drag it in. Next thing I'm going to do is get a some base corrections in. And once I get those corrections, like normalizing the audio or adding some saturation to the video, once I get that set, I can just copy and paste that across all my footage, speeding up the whole process. So let's do that really quick. We're going to come over to this area, this bin down here, and there's two different tabs. Don't mix them up. Here we have, this one is effects, and this one is transitions. So if you were using the search bar down here and you can't find it, you're probably in the wrong one. So let's go effects, and I'm going to add a compressor to this. I'm using the Logic compressors. Click the footage, and the top right section is going to show me my properties for this. I'm going to go over here to the Audio tab, and here is the compressor I just added. Let's open up the settings. And I mostly use the compressor just to get my gain level back up. You might think to come up here by the volume, you could boost this. Only problem with that is that if there's peaks where something is close to peaking, and you were to boost this, considerably, it might bring some areas into the clipping zone. You don't want that. So we want to keep this at its native gain all the time, and if you need to gain up, use the either use the gain or the compressor. Now, I want to kill two birds with one stone and normalize his audio level. So I'm going to come in here and use this to gain up. I'll do a couple different things. I'm going to take the threshold, open it up, because I don't want to compress right off the bit here. Then I'm going to take the input gain and slowly start bringing it up until I notice the out level gets something around this like -3, -6 neighborhood, that area. Let's check it out.
We are so glad that you joined us today.
Oops, let me back it up.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan. We are so glad that you joined us today. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up, so grab your bulletin and follow along.
That sounds a lot better. But if you notice right here, there is one little peak. So what I want to do is basically put like a kind of a limiter on here. This plugin has a limiter built in. So let's turn that on. and we're going to set the threshold to -0.5. What that means is it's going to give us the most amount of headroom we can get, and it's going to put a limiter, hard limiter, at just a half a decibel below 0. Now the reason why we do that is because different appliances will clip at different levels, and if you were to just say, just limit at 0 decibels, it might not distort in your speakers, but it might distort in other speakers. So if you just bring the threshold down to -0.5, most appliances are not going to distort or clip at that level. There's plenty of headroom before you get to that last decibel. So as a reminder, -0.5 on the threshold. Let's listen to it again.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan. We are so glad that you joined us today. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up, so grab your bulletin and follow along.
All right, that's sounding better, and it's not clipping. If you want to see bigger meters, if you come over here to your viewer, hit these little tiny meters right there, and you will see the meters pop up over here on the right. Now, it's sounding good, but there's still quite a bit of dynamics when he speaks up versus when he's talking softly. And I want to get that a little bit more under control because it's going to make it harder to hear him when I add the music track. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play with this compressor threshold until I can see these levels normalize. I want to stick a little bit more into a 3 to 4 decibel pocket, not so much a 12 decibel pocket.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan. We are so glad that you joined us today. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up, so grab your bulletin and follow along.
It's sounding a little bit aggressive, so I'm going to play with these settings just to back it off a little bit. Right now, I'm compressing by a 2 to 1 ratio. Let's back that off. Let's only do maybe like a 1.5. And then I'm going to take this attack and slow it down to something like 30 or 40 milliseconds. Let's see how that sounds.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan. We are so glad that you joined us today. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up, so grab your bulletin and follow along.
That's not too bad. That's a happy medium. I'm not slamming on the vocal, distorting the dynamics of it or anything. It's not clipping, and we're kind of in it's kind of like a 8 decibel pocket right here. I think that's safe. Next, let's do some coloring. This has a normal, the camera I'm filming with has a very flat look to it, and I personally like the look, but I realize that it can look extra pale on normal monitors. So let's come up here. If you click on the footage, come to the top right corner, it's the second tab over. This almost looks like a play button, and this is the color corrector. Now you can use this color corrector if you really need, but this is the kind of the color corrector for dummies. This is the one that came with Final Cut when they first launched, but there's a lot of retaliation because there was some perfectly great working color wheels in the previous version. Feel free to play with this if you'd like, but we're going to be using the color wheels. If you come over here where it says no corrections, click that little drop down, come over here to color wheels. There we go. Now we get this more traditional breakdown where you've got saturation, intensity, and separate control of the shadows, midtones, and highlights. Highlights look pretty good, but I need to get a little bit more information so I know what I'm dealing with. I have certain appliances that clip at different levels, kind of like audio. So if you come over here to View, we're going to go to View Video Scopes. And I want to make this a little bit bigger so you can see. So up here at the top right corner, I'm going to undo this. This is really cool. This lets you hide different elements of the user interface. Let's do that so I get a nice big view of what I'm working on here. I'm going to do a couple things. Number one, I'm going to bring the highlights down by a little bit. Not a lot. I like dynamics, but I have projectors that clip beyond a certain threshold. So I'm going to bring those down just a hair. And midtones, I might actually crunch them. Let's see here. Let's bring the shadows down. Maybe bring the midtones up. All right, I like what's going on here. and I might bring the saturation of the highlights in. All I want to do here is just add just a little bit of contrast and a little bit of vibrancy. I really don't want to go all out sports. You know, you walk into a Walmart and you see all the TVs with the crazy contrast. That's not what we're looking for here. We're just looking for just a little bit more saturation than what we're normally getting. So this is before, this is after. Really, really big difference. And there's actually a way where you can do a side-by-side comparison. I don't have time to do that in this video, but there you have it. That's before and that's after. And we can play with a couple more things. In fact, I'll show you one more tool just because it's really fun to work with. And this is the curves editor. Same drop-down menu, you just go down here to color curves, and you get this. This is the same thing that you would see in Photoshop for the Photoshop curves. And I like this because I can take certain elements here, like I could just raise the vividness or just add really subtle changes here. Sometimes I like to play with the just the bits of the black. You can get really wacky with that. Look at that. But I can kind of make the blacks a little more two-dimensional. Add a little bit more depth there. Again, this is really subtle. That actually kind of lifted the detail in the curtain. I don't know how much I like that. Anywho, so this is a really fun tool. I encourage you to play with it. You can do a lot with the color curves. I'm just going to leave this off for now. All right, so it's now time for us to start adding the rest of our content in. I'm going to hide the scopes and reopen, remember the top right corner right here, reopen the bin, and let's start adding stuff. Let's start with softball.
Good.
Again, I'm going to use the I and the O buttons to get my timing as close as I can.
The Eastridge Summer Softball League starts up July 7th. This is an intramural league with all teams from our church. It's co-ed. Beginners are welcome. Emphasis on fun. Games are Sunday nights, and we'd love to have you join us. Cost is just $25 for the whole season of 8 games. Sign up, though, by June 23rd. Sorry.
Oh, outtake. And here, this might actually help. You can change the way that this looks so that you can see the audio waveforms below it. Let's come up here and include waveforms. There we go. Looks like he messed up a couple times. Let's start it about here.
The Eastridge Summer Softball League starts July 7th.
Awesome. Close enough for me. Let's bring it in. Remember all those settings that we added? If you do a Command-C, select the next clip, and do a Command-Shift-V, you get this window up. This is the Paste Attributes window. This is really nifty because we can take all those things we just worked on. You notice how it automatically selected the elements that it saw as changes, both in video and audio. We can hit Paste. And boom, all our hard work is transferred to the next clip. We're going to be using this tool a lot, so keep following. Notice though, I didn't change my camera framing between these clips. So if I were to play this,
Bulletin and follow along. The Eastridge Summer Softball League.
So it's a little bit of a kind of a jump, and you even notice that the camera shot changed just enough between to where it can be a bit of a distraction. There's a couple different things we could do. We could try adding a fade. I just did a Command T after selecting that, but that kind of it doesn't really help here. What I found though is I have a way of cheating a little bit here. I have a way of pretending to have 2 cameras when all I have is just one. And part of this trick is that I'm filming on a 4K camera, but my timeline is 1080. So to do this, you might have to make sure that when you create a project, that you do File, New, and then instead of automatic, say use custom settings. Now, I was a bad boy and I forgot to do this ahead of time, so I'm going to do it now. I'm going to force 1080p, and the frame rate is 23.98. That's what I film video announcements in. I'll rename this, 526.19 is Aqua 1080, just so I know. And what we'll do is we'll just take this, Command A to select all, copy, and paste. Right, so now that we're in a 1080p timeline instead of a 4K timeline, now what I can do is take this footage and zoom in as if I was zooming on the camera. So let's see here. Let's take this, and there's a couple different ways you can do this. There is a tool down here at the bottom left corner of the viewer where you can come in and crop, but that's only really meant to crop in on certain content. There is a transform, but the transform, it could be kind of clunky to get. It works, but it's not the most accurate way of being able to get things done the way you need. So what we're going to do is just select the clip, come over here to just that little film reel, that's video properties, come to transform, and here's a couple more options that we have. We got scale, position, rotation, and these are great because you can just use your mouse and scroll, just click and hold, move it up and down. So I'm just gonna center him a little bit. I'm still using my guide, so I make sure that I'm not putting his head right up to the edge or anything. Let's get it right within the safe zones. And this doesn't have to be drastic, although you could push in like 2 times because I've got 4K footage here. All I need for the sake of this is just enough to change the shot to make it look like a different angle. Let's look at the difference between those two. I think I could probably go in a little bit more. Let's try that. Okay. And let's check it out.
We have a lot of fun stuff coming up, so grab your bulletin and follow along. The Eastridge Summer Softball Leagues.
Awesome. That looks a little bit, it's a little bit easier of a transition. Let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit because that was a bit of a gap. I'm going to, if you have a touch pad, you can do a pinch to zoom. If you need to zoom in and out, you could also do a command minus or command plus to zoom in and out. This is a third way, but it's not coming to my head right now. So there is more than one way to do this though. I'm going to come over here and just reduce this a little bit and reduce this clip a little bit. I want it to run just a little tighter together.
Bulletin and follow along. The Eastridge Summer Softball.
Perfect. Next, I don't really want to hold on this shot too long because I need to be able to put text in here. So let's just hit play and look for a natural breakpoint.
Follow along. The Eastridge Summer Softball League starts July 7th.
There it is. I'm going to just back off just a little bit using my arrows. You can arrow left and right for fine tune. I'm going to hit B to get to my blade tool and divide the clip. Now I have 2 separate clips, and I'll come over here to the second clip, and remember those same transform settings right here. Let's just uncheck it. And now we just undid our settings. So here's what that transition looks like.
And follow along. The Eastridge Summer Softball League starts July 7th. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's a
much smoother, and we can continue to do the same zoom in, zoom out trick to make everything a lot smoother. All right, now it's time to add some text. Now I could take a little bit of a shortcut here because I have some of my text pre-formatted for me. Now if I had to create something from scratch, what I'd probably do is come over here to the top left corner, go to my generators, and this is where I could grab titles, and maybe something like a basic title. You drag it down, open it up, and you have your settings here to the right. But since I've already done this, the bulk of it, all the formatting is kind of already done in the previous video announcements. So just to save some time, I'm just going to use the previous video announcements text as a base point. So I'm going to flip back over to my browser, pick up a previous video announcement, and look at that. Looks like we talked about the Summer Softball League last week, so I'll go ahead and grab that. Note, I'm not going to grab this. This is kind of its own, I don't know the best way to explain it. It's in its own storyline. So I had a text thing in here, and I have it looks like I added a transition. And if I grab this, I grab all of the things. So what I'll do is I'll grab this, not this or this. I'll just grab the container it's in and do a Command C. And then I'm going to use this little back arrow right down here. That'll let me toggle between my projects. Now I want this to come in right as the camera switches, so I'll do a Command V right there. See how that looks.
July 7th. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's an intramural.
Awesome, and my transition and everything is already in there. It's got the slide in the up direction. And what I'll do is I'll just, rather than having to transition this out, I'm just going to have it cut out for the next shot. Or at the same time as the next shot, rather. Let's see how this footage ends.
And space is limited, so sign up today.
Here we go. Go to my blade tool, cut that off, and then I'm going to use snapping. This is a really cool tool. If you just slide it, you notice how it'll just kind of snap into place. For certain applications where you don't want things to automatically snap, just come over here, and there's this little bump together looking icon right there, snapping. That's the shortcut for that is the N key. And that will let you precisely drag something. For me, I need snapping. That's going to help me. So I'm going to turn that on. And let's move on to the next clip. Go back to my browser. Next one on the list is next. So let's get next on here. I can already tell from the waveform that he goofed initially. So I'm going to just skip ahead, hit I, hover my mouse over the end, hit O, and drag the footage in. And don't worry, if you accidentally cut something in short, you can always expand, and it'll know to expand to the end of the source or beginning of the source.
Is June 23rd, and space is limited, so sign up today. If you're looking to take your next...
So we're going to do the kind of the same thing right here, but we're going to just, now that we have this kind of zoomed in preset made, let's speed up this process a little bit.
If you're looking to take your next step in connection at Eastridge, join us for next.
That's kind of his beginning statement. Plop the blade tool right there. Come over to my zoomed in clip, Command C, come over here, Command Shift V, paste. Now that's in. Let's go to my second clip, Command C, go to the last clip, Command Shift V, paste. And now I've got the, whoops, it looks like I might have copied the wrong one there. Command Z, let's undo that. Come over to the second one, Command C, Command Shift V. Oh, I see what happened here. Got to undo that transform button. Real easy. Let's see if I talked about next in the previous video announcement. See if we could save some time again. I'll skip forward. Family night, youth summer camp, softball league. I'm not seeing it. Maybe I could go back further. I'm feeling lucky. Next class. There it is. I knew we did it in one of those. Let's go back to our timeline. Drop it in. Command V.
Join us for next. This is a place where you can hear our story.
Awesome. This looks like that's a big dead space there, so I'm just going to trim that up.
And space is limited, so sign up today. If you're looking to take...
Perfect. Now we're just cruising right along. Next would be the paint and dip. Now, this is a really interesting one because I have two subjects that were captured on two microphones on the same camera. This was done actually strategically because sometimes when you get two microphones in close proximity to one another, you can run into really weird phasey bits, and sometimes it's easier to get two separate lines of audio so you can go in and correct things after the fact. So first, what I want to do is just get a bass edit. I'll do my I, my O. Looks like I stopped right there at the end, so I'll just pull that in. Get that footage out of the way there. Click. And immediately when you play it, you're going to notice the meters are doing two different things here.
I want to invite each and every one of you out to our paint and dip night. It's an opportunity for you to...
So she's on one, he's on the other. Now I'm looking at my my waveforms here, and it looks like things are mostly in the same area. So we're going to try something. We're going to compress both channels and see what that gets us. But before we do that, what we want to do is make these both come through the same channel. We don't want her pan to one side and him pan to the other. Let's go to the audio tab here. And right down here where it says stereo, we're going to take that and change it to dual mono. That's going to make both play at the same time. Let's give that a listen.
We want to invite each and every one of you out to our paint and dip night.
Skip to Dan.
10 o'clock. Tickets are just $15. You can rent.
Awesome. That's actually sounding pretty good. I'm not hearing any large phase discrepancies or boxy, cardboardy sounds. So this is actually going to make our lives really easy. So let's come over here, back to our effects, and we're going to search for that same compressor that we had before. Add the compressor. And it's going to, sometimes what it'll do, if we're in this dual mono mode, it'll ask you, do you want to apply this to the dialogue or to the track as a whole? Now, if we noticed that there was problems with the levels of each one, or phasey bits, or weird shenanigans, what you can do is come down here to the clip, right-click, and go to Expand Audio Components. Not just Expand Audio, but Expand Audio Components. And what that will do is that will split each track up. So I could actually come in here and mute Dan.
Eastridge today.
Dip night. It's an opportunity.
So this right here is Rebecca. Oops, let me undo that. There we go. So this is Rebecca, and this is Dan. And you can even come in here, and this is really great because you can change the audio roles. So I can actually come in here and edit the roles and say, oh, I want a sub roll for audio. Let's see here. Let's do audio sub roll. I'll call this one Dan, and I'll call this one Rebecca. Hit apply. And when I come here, I can right-click, go to Assign Audio Roles, make this one Dan, and make this one Rebecca. And this is great because if I needed to come in and I don't know, animate the audio in and out, or give Rebecca a different EQ than Dan, I can do that. In fact, I can come here and drag a compressor or an EQ onto a channel. Thankfully, however, their audio came through sounding great. So what I did is I added this compressor to the entire clip. So now, let's play with it. We're going to do kind of that same thing. Going to open up that threshold. Add a little bit of gain. Slow that attack down. Maybe something like 40 or 50. Don't want the compressor to be too aggressive. And remember that threshold, we want to set it to negative 0.5 dB and turn it on. Let's give it a listen.
I want to invite each and every one of you out to our paint and dip night. It's an opportunity for you to learn how to...
So it's sounding kind of compressed, and I'm hearing some clipping, but I'm also noticing it's not necessarily redlining. In fact, it's kind of sticking down here at the negative 6 dB mark. Now, this is a bit of a glitch. Sometimes when we set that threshold, it defaults to negative 6. It's not the end of the world, but I'll show you how to get around it. Let's open that compressor back up. Let's give it a listen.
Whether you're a couple or even if you're single.
Aha. So we're driving that limiter really hard, and the distortion we're hearing is coming from the limiter. So let's back off the input gain. I'm just going to kind of play and dial these settings.
We want to invite each and every one of you out to our paint and dip night. It's an opportunity for you to learn how to paint, to have a great time with friends, whether you're a couple or even if you're single. We'd love to have you out learning how to paint with us and enjoying some fondue. There's also going to be opportunities for your kids.
Now we're still running into this weird discrepancy of where my output right here is actually showing up as a lower volume on the right. I just have a quick workaround for that. Basically what you have to do is select your clip and boost your main volume out. This just so happens to be a glitch with multi-channel audio or contained audio or audio that's in a compound clip. Not entirely sure why it happens, but it happens sometimes. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment.
Each and every one of you out to our paint and dip night. It's an opportunity for you to learn how to paint, to have a great time with friends, whether you're a couple or even if you're single. We'd love to have you out learning how to paint with us and enjoying some fondue.
All right, it's a little bit better, but I need to continue to make a couple of adjustments here. I'm going to go a little bit more a little more aggressive on the compressor. And I want to compare that to our other audio, make sure we're in a normal level.
Up on your Connect card or at eastridgetoday.com.
Hey Eastridge, we want to invite each and every one of you out to our paint and dip night. It's an opportunity for you to learn how to paint, to have a great time with friends, whether you're a couple or even if you're single. We'd love to have you out learning how to paint with us and enjoying some fondue. There's also going to be opportunities for your kids, for your youth, and so we hope you can come on out.
It's this Wednesday, May 29th at 7 o'clock. Tickets are just $15. You can register online at eastridgetoday.com/couples or in the lobby. But let us know that you're coming, register so that we can be ready for you at Paint and Dip.
You know, I think that'll work. Let's keep moving on here. Next is our outro. Let's go ahead, drag the outro. Oh, did he mess up? Let's see here. Oh, he did. Did it again. Looks like it was on the third take.
Okay.
In. All right. Let's drag that in there. Trim it up just a little bit more. There we go. And let's see, going from there to there. Let's push in. Come over here, let's copy. Do our same Command-Shift-V, paste.
Dip. Inside your bulletin.
I noticed we're missing one more thing on here, and that is the color calibration that we did here. Now, if I were to just do the Command-Shift-V and hit paste, it's going to mess up our audio settings and add a whole lot more things that we don't need to add in here. So let's take them out. While we have the window open, just come up and we're going to click Transform. It's going to, by default, check everything. So just hit it one more time and it'll go away. Let's go over to audio. Let's do the same thing. Check, check. Now it's all deselected. We only have our color wheel options enabled here. And let's see, we don't want the curves. We decided not to do that. So hit paste. Boom. There it is. Awesome. Now, there's a couple of graphics we insert for the closer. Number one is the Connect card. He talks about going to the hub and submitting your Connect card. And now, for the outro, what we're going to do is there's a couple of different graphics that we use. We have one that is a kind of like a pre-made video sequence showing the Connect card, the hub, and then we have an outro sequence. Both are pre-made and should just drop right in. So let's look, and we're going to do a couple different things here. I'm going to show you the marker tool. This is really convenient when you're just wanting to play back stuff, drop little bookmarks, little reminders for you. To do that, all you have to do is hit the M key. That's M as in moose. So we're just going to hit play, and I'll drop a marker on the areas that we want to drop these graphics on.
Inside your bulletin, you'll find a Connect card. Go ahead and take that card, fill it out now as much as you feel comfortable, and drop it with an usher on your way out. If it's your first time here at Eastridge, we want to give you a special welcome. Take your card out to the hub, and we'd like to give you a $5 Starbucks card, our way of saying thanks for being here at Eastridge Church. And for more information about anything you heard today, go to eastridgetoday.com or download our mobile app. And thanks for joining us at Eastridge.
All right, so I dropped 2 markers down here. One of them is where I want to drop the video animated sequence for the Connect card. The other one was just a little reminder saying this is right where I want the clip to end. These are great because you can use these to snap both your playhead and content to it. So there, I just got that outro bit in. And then I could leave a note here if I wanted to say, I don't know, insert hub graphic here. You can also change these too if you want them to be more like, that's like a note. It's like a bookmark. Really just depends. So let's go back and find those graphics. I've got them in a previous video announcement. Scroll to the end. Notice I have 2 of these. One of them has the background, looks like Issaquah. The other one's got the background, looks like West Seattle. Let's go ahead and just grab both of those. And then I have this little clip here called Short Whoosh. Looks like it probably just got the name from the audio sample in there. It's a whoosh audio sample. So again, we're grabbing the container, not the things in it. Do a Command C. Flip back to our project. Do a Command V. Boom, look at that. All right, so I'm going to slide this in just a little bit more, and let's give it a look.
Give you a special welcome. Take your card out to the hub, and we'd like to give you a $5 Starbucks card, our way of saying thanks for being here at Eastridge Church. And for more
all right, that actually timed out pretty well. I might slide it just a hair so that when he's finished, he switches subjects here.
Our way of saying thanks for being here at Eastridge Church. And for more information about anything you heard today, go.
All right, and then we're going to take this little swoosh, and I want it to come in right as he finishes, but I don't want that black bit to cut in. Let's see how that looks.
Join us at Eastridge.
Yep, there it is. See how it kind of cuts to black like that? Let's just slide this clip out just a little bit longer, see if that helps us.
Join us at Eastridge.
Much better. All right, now you're probably wondering, this is great and all, but kind of sounds like it's a little bit dry. And you'd be right. Oops, I forgot to add one more thing. So there's only one other thing that we're missing, and that is Dan's lower third title slide. Again, let's just open up one of our previous projects, come over here, and let's do a copy, flip back, and do a paste. Now, only dilemma here is that we just copied something that was right justified, but he's on the right side of the frame. So let's take this and left justify it. It's pretty easy to do. All you have to do is grab the clip, open up the editor right here on the right, select it, and come over here to alignment. This is where you can make it centered or left justified. But we're running into a bit of a problem. It's kind of going off the frame. So never to fear, go ahead and just grab that and drag it into place. Again, you make sure you're using these guides here. If you line it up to the bottom right corner of the guide, you will know that it will definitely show up on any screen. I'm going to take this lower third all the way to the end of the clip. And we need to add one more thing. We need to fade in. So I'll do 2 things here. I could just do a Command T, but I don't like working against the edge of my clip here. So I want to give myself a little bit of buffer. I'm going to go up to generators. I'm going to go to solids, and this black little thing right here says custom. I'm going to just take that and drag it down here. I don't need all that space. I just need a little bit of it. Now I need to give myself a little bit more room so that when I drop my my transition in, it won't cut over my footage. All I did right there was was just hover my mouse over. I didn't have to open up any tools. Just click it and do a Command T. That'll give me my fade transition. Next, I'll just kind of trim that up a little bit. Blade, delete the rest. Now I have a little bit of a gap.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan.
Excellent. Now, you might be wondering, this is great. We have everything in that we need, but it sounds a little dead. You'd be right. We need to add a track. So I'll go ahead and add the track I had from this previous video announcement just by doing a Command C, Command V. Helps to give it a little listen just to make sure it's at the right level.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan.
So far it sounds good. Now, we didn't really go over too much about adding audio tracks. The thing to know is that you need them to be obviously behind the vocal or at a lower level. I try to, one trick that I do is I'll bring my volume down considerably, and if I can hear Dan clearly on top of the music, even at a quiet volume, that's a good volume. I don't want it to be too incredibly quiet, but not too loud to where it's hard to see or hard to hear what Dan's saying. Another thing to note is that if you're adding an audio track, you might want to use something called a multi-band compressor. Let me just give you an example of what this would sound like without this, and then I'll show you how you can add that. So I'm just going to mess this up a little bit, make the audio a lot louder.
We're so glad that you joined us today. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up, so grab your bulletin.
All right, so already it's pretty busy, and if I were to bring this back down to where it was, see, negative 9.4 or whatever, even just playing it,
and follow along. The Eastridge Summer...
It still sounds like it's in the way, and there's not really a good way of explaining it other than it just seems loud. So what you can do is add this multi-band compressor. Again, you can find it in that same spot down here that you found a compressor. So if you notice, I have 4 different bands of compression, and each band is compressing a different area of the spectrum. I have this, see right here, it says band 3. That's compressing between that frequency and that frequency, which tends to be this 1.5 to 3.1K, even this 300 to 700 hertz. That's kind of where the body of a vocal sits. So to fix that, you can just kind of pull a little bit of it out, and this will just kind of bounce up and down, and every time that track gets kind of excited in those frequencies, it'll compress it a little bit. You don't want to go too crazy with this or it'll really take the dynamics out of it, but just by adding this adds a really helps keep the music track in the video without it stomping on top of the vocal. Let's take a quick listen.
Starts July 7th. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's an intramural league with all teams from our church.
It's a little bit loud. Let's go ahead and put it in.
Welcome. Emphasis on fun. Sign up on the website at Eastridge.
It's really subtle, but it helps. The other thing that we didn't really quite go over was audio EQ. I went without EQ on this one. I like the way that his voice was sounding in the microphone and in my studio monitors, but if you had to add some EQ, you can do it. You just come over to the same area, search for EQ, take channel EQ, and add it to your clip. Go over to the audio, and just where you saw compressor, there it is, channel EQ. And if you want a better idea and if you want to see what you're hearing, you can come over to the bottom left corner and click on the analyzer button. When you play your footage, you're going to see meters bouncing up and down representing all the frequencies. If you wanted to clean it up, his voice does sound a little bit boxy. What you can do is just come over to one of these bands and just pull it down a little bit. I'm noticing I'm getting a lot right here in this 500. Let's listen to it.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan. We are so glad that you joined us today. We have a lot of fun stuff.
I want to narrow it just a little bit because I want to pull a very specific frequency out.
Coming up.
Listen to it again.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan.
Not too bad. Now it's a little bit warm here in the 200. There we go. Let's pull some of that out.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan. We are so glad that you...
There we go.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan.
That kind of clears it up a little bit. Here's without.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan.
And here's with.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is Dan.
All right, so let's say we want to take this and apply it across the board. Remember that same trick we learned, Command C, and then I'll just go and select all of the clips and do a Command Shift V. I don't care about adding the video attributes or the compressor that's already on them. I just want to add the channel EQ. I'll go ahead and hit paste. And I'm just going to look at another random clip just so I can see. Sure enough, it went ahead and added the EQ.
Inside your bulletin, you'll find a connect card. Go ahead and...
Now, check this out. At the end of my audio, on the previous video, I rolled the volume up. Now we got to fix that because clearly this ain't the end of the video. So let's go ahead and just scrub this all the way to the end. And see, that's probably the end of my clip right here. And these guys are keyframes. Now, I want to show you how to add these. If you needed to, in a pinch, you could just slide them left and right, but I want to show you how to actually make them because keyframes are really, really powerful in Final Cut. I'm going to delete these for now, but say at the very end, you want the audio to ramp back up. What I'll do, so come over here, select the audio, and here's the audio or the volume fader, but to the right here is this little key, it says add keyframe. If I click that, it's going to drop this dot down here right where the playhead is. That's good. Let's do that, and then we'll just move our playhead to the right slightly. And at this point, we could either drop a keyframe or just bring our volume fader up, and you'll see right there, you can see the waveforms go up as we do that. If we want to adjust our timing, because clearly he's still talking right here, we can just move that, move this, wait until he's done talking, which is about right here. Let's give that a listen.
And thanks for joining us at Eastridge.
All right, cool. I am noticing that as this music has built, it started quiet and it got bigger and bigger. It's kind of hard to hear him, so let's just take this and bring this whole level down. It should be about -9. I might have just hit undo too many times, but here we go. Let's listen to that.
Bulletin, you'll find a connect card. Go ahead and take that card, fill it out now as much as you
Skip to the end.
download our mobile app. And thanks for joining us at Eastridge.
I like it, but it seems a little drastic. Let's just take the edge off.
And thanks for joining us at Eastridge.
Awesome. So we're looking pretty good. The next thing you want to do is to hit play and watch the whole thing. Sometimes you might catch some misspellings or even just a poor edit. So it's really, really important for you to be able to just hit play and watch the footage roll all the way through the end. Once you've done that, it's time to render. To do that, you come up to the top left corner, hit File, Share, Apple Devices, 1080p. There's only one other place that you might share this to, and that would be Compressor, but we can cover that in a different video. For the sake of this video, we'll just do Apple Devices 1080p. And what this is going to do is spit out an MP4 file, or they're going to call it an M4V file. And it's basically just a form of MPEG compression. I don't really have time to blab and get into the deep nuances of it all, but this is where you could change the title of it if you needed. There are settings if you did want to get into that. You can do it there. These settings will work just fine for our application, and we'll hit Share. While that's rendering, I do want to point out that if you don't define where you want that file to go, it's going to import to the Apple iTunes library in the home folder or the home view folder. It can be kind of tricky to find. I made a shortcut for it. So if you open up your Finder window, I've got one here. It's home videos. That's going to be in the iTunes Media home videos folder. Again, that's the iTunes Media home videos folder. And iTunes, I believe that, yep, that comes in through the music folder. Once you do that, all of those clips are going to spit out right there. If you want to check out the speed at which your project is rendering, you can click that background tasks window, pop it open, and it seems to render pretty quick in this format. That's one of the reasons why I use render to Apple devices. And sure enough, it's already rendered. And at this point in time, we do the second check. So come over to your home videos folder, find it, and watch it.
Welcome to Eastridge Church. My name is...
Again, it's really, really important that all our work is double and triple checked, because certain things happen. I've had glitches with lower thirds where the font got messed up or something. There's a problem between the Final Cut and rendering. So again, it's really, really important to double or triple check your work before you send it out. So that's it. That is the end of the tutorial for editing video announcements. I might create a couple more tutorials just showing some of the more advanced features, but this is basically how we do it. This is how we edit our announcements. And if you have any questions or problems, feel free to call or text me. I'm available almost anytime. And yeah,